When Sarah joyfully announced her surprise pregnancy, my heart sank. I'd had a vasectomy 2 years ago, a secret she never knew. Was my wife pregnant with another man's child? Betrayal and revenge are about to collide in our perfect illusion. I was Daniel, 37 years of age, and Sarah was 34 years old. We married her 2 years ago. Our journey started 3 years ago when I met her at my buddy's party. Her infectious laughter, warmth, and effortless charm drew me into her world, and we spent countless nights talking with one another about our dreams and desires. At that time, I was apprehensive about marriage as I perceived it to be a complicated commitment that could shackle my free-spirited nature. But Sarah's beauty and persistence tempered me gradually, compelling me to take the leap. We exchanged vows with friends and family under a bright blue sky, our love growing into every heartfelt promise. But with time, our apparently perfect life started fraying at the edges. Sarah forced us to start trying for a baby a year into marriage. I was a good friend initially. I could understand her desire to be a mother. But when it dragged on for months, the frustration turned dark. It became anger, but not that deep-down burning anger. The anguish still felt like anger. I became the target of her mounting frustration, and her resentment released venomous rebukes of my inadequacy. And with every abusive comment and character assassination delivered, the transparent layer of our relationship revealed the cracks that had been smeared with smoke so far. I tried to keep up for both of us, but the emotional pressure was too much. One evening, after a bitter argument over her accusations that I never wanted to have children, I decided to do something. I could not take any more time under her scorn, so I went to see a doctor requesting a fertility test because I wanted to know what was going on with us. And then came the results. I was sterile. The doctor let it all sink in with his words. Before I knew it, everything else was erased, including all those romantic thoughts of children as a part of my future life. It was like standing on the edge of revealing to Sarah. She had been ruthless with our test conception, and nothing could I tolerate the stormy fury that would break loose when she came to know the real thing. I thought and delayed, waiting for prime time to break out my news. But before I could gather my courage, she did what scared me the most. She told me she was pregnant. "Daniel, I am going to be a mom!" she shrieked, eyes glistening with delight. The words echoed hollowly inside my ears, and a wave of doubt washed over me. My heart pounded as I wrestled to maintain my composure. I could not let her see the storm inside me. In fact, I presented her with a weak smile, feeling the knot of betrayal tightening inside my chest. So, the following day, between desperation and determination, I took another test. I still didn't know. I had to be sure. The results confirmed my worst fears. I couldn't be the father. Panic set in. Who had impregnated my wife? The consequences of her infidelity overwhelmed me. We struggled financially, and I was the sole breadwinner. There is no possible way she could afford any medical procedures without knowing it. The truth became glaring. Sarah had been cheating on me. Yet inside, I fought in turmoil while outwardly I feigned everything was fine as she planned a baby shower, oblivious to the storm beneath my surface. I never told another soul about my suspicions. This was too personal, too embarrassing to discuss. I put on the mask of the devoted husband in prenatal classes and stores while buying baby clothes. Still, thoughts inside my head were churning and boiling in a silent storm of emotions. It would hurt every time I felt the kicking of the baby. That is when it hurt the most. It was a constant reminder of the betrayal that made our marriage fall apart. On that day at the baby shower, full of friends, family, and laughter, among the guests was Jake, our neighbor, an upwardly mobile 29-year-old artist with a real presence. Sarah had always been impressed by him and insisted he come over for dinner, listening intently to the story he liked to talk about his dreams of success. I tried to suppress my feelings of inadequacy. Still, there was something different in the way Sarah's eyes lit up when he came into the room, and the embrace seemed to last a little too long. Was it that moment of fear I had expected? I wanted to prove this. I excused myself to our bedroom and opened Sarah's laptop. She was very private, always discussing working on her novel, but I felt now that this wasn't true. Using her login, I opened her emails and found a secret account. It hit me when reading the messages. They were full of declarations of love between Sarah and Jake. I learned that they had been meeting in secret and even confessed about her pregnancy to him. Among them, however, one caught my attention. Their plan is to leave me after the baby is born. and Jake promises to take care of them. The pain was sharp enough to pierce through the physical wound. The degree of her deception shocked me. Anger and hurt ran through my body as I realized this was now possible. I took screenshots of her emails. She had written so treacherously. Instead of confronting her, I decided to be the perfect husband while plotting revenge. I became the dutiful partner, attending each doctor's appointment and showering her with all the love and affection inside of me, with my heart twisting in anguish for the next 9 months. I held her hand through each contraction in labor, my mind thrashing with the betrayals she had perpetrated against me. I would make her live every bit of pain I had to, and this was fueling every move I made ahead. One day, Sarah went into labor. I was with her when we rushed to the hospital. On the outside, I was cool. Inside, my heart felt like it was set to pounding with anxiety and anger. I could hardly contain myself when she was wheeled into the delivery room. Would the baby resemble Jake? Would it have his smile, his laughter, or would it bear the weight of the lies Sarah had spun? I was pacing in the waiting room with mixed feelings of anxiety and expectation. I wanted to confront her with the truth, to tear open the perfectly built facade she had erected. Just as I was thinking of my next move, a nurse said that the baby had been born, a boy. My heart racing, I entered the room where Sarah lay exhausted but radiant, rocking our newborn son. "Isn't he perfect?" she exclaimed, tears streaming down her cheeks joyfully. I strained to return a smile even as a storm raged inside me. "Yes, he is something," I said, trying to sound as normal as possible, despite the hurricane of emotions churning in my chest. With hesitancy, I stepped closer to the bedside in hopes of somehow anchoring the storm building inside me. Looking at the face of the little fellow, pain and confusion exploded in my heart. "Daniel, I won't wait until you become the best dad," Sarah exclaimed with virginal excitement. I nodded as her words encircled my neck like an ascending noose. After the nurses left us alone, it was time to reveal the shock. "Sarah, we need to talk," I said in a composed tone but firm accent. I never did. It was at the moment I spoke to her about my test result that everything changed. "I cannot be the father. This baby cannot be mine," I declared as I caught her face twisting to look at me in disbelief. I started recounting everything. Emails, the lies, the deceit. She shifted from confusion to horror. "Daniel, please, I can explain," she pleaded, tears spilling down her cheeks as she tried to reach for me, but I stepped back, and the distance between us grew. I came out, but my heart was pounding on my chest as I went away from her in a whirlwind of emotions. Getting into the hallway, I knew it was mixed with victory and sadness. For one, I finally showed her she was lying. Still, the happiness of that victory could not make up for the pain that came forth regarding our relationship. I drove away after the confrontation, my heart heavy yet relieved that I had done what was right. The aftermath loomed ahead of me. I spent that night in a motel amidst unfamiliar silence that felt comforting. I had severed a bond that had been pernicious to me, but I faced the aftermath alone. The next day, my phone buzzed with dozens of messages from Sarah. She asked for forgiveness and reason with me. However, I had made up my mind. I had seen the depths of her deceitfulness, and there was no way I would fall again into her trap. Weeks became weeks, and I was far from them, not bothering to reason with them. I needed to reason with the family so they would understand my side. When I finally told them the story, they were shocked but understood my pain. My mother had me clutched to her as she recanted the story, her warmth and empathy offering a slight solace to the chaos of the situation. Feeling somewhat relieved that I was not alone was all that mattered. While I was reeling from the aftermath, Sarah never stopped calling me. My phone kept ringing with her attempts, and even her dad reached out to me to apologize for her behavior. He cut off his daughter, indicating regret and support to her if she needed it. "Daniel, I am so sorry for what my daughter has done," he texted. "I hope you can find peace." Yet, her father's kindness could not repair the damage that had been done. Time passed, and I learned that Sarah had moved in with Jake, but their fairy tale quickly unraveled. She fought as a single mother, masked behind the smile of a happy family. The stories of mutual friends tell the story of an overwhelmed woman. The life she had envisioned crumbled apart, found by chaos. The dream she chased so joyfully was shattered, and she alone stood before the harsh world of motherhood. I had dived into work month by month, flinging myself towards projects that rekindled the fire. I threw myself into that single man's freedom, free from toxic bounds that held me captive in misery. Despite the bitter past and Sarah's betrayal, during those 9 months when I played the role of a father, in a way, I considered that child my own and tried to see myself as his father. Maybe that child wasn't biologically mine, but that woman was once my wife, and I knew I could never have another child. That child gave me a sense of fatherhood during those 9 months, and in a way, I still saw myself as a father to him. I vowed to be the father my son deserved, a figure of strength and love. Sarah reached out occasionally, stuffing message after message with regrets and remorse. Still, I held firm. She could not drag me back in again into her web of lies. I filled up my days with new activities that involved reconnecting with friends and finding joy in experiences that I had put off for far too long. I started hiking, found local trails, and reaped the beauty that nature has to offer. It became a form of therapy for me, a way to clear one's mind and find peace amidst the chaos. I finally learned to forgive her not for her sake, but for my own self. I wanted an honest and truthful life instead of the illusion that had overrun us. I began a new chapter, embracing friends and family's love and care. Months passed since then, and I met the next person, Lisa, a wonderful woman who had overcome her dose of breakage at one point. We ran into each other at a coffee shop where I used to sit frequently working, and it was as if we were already known to each other. She was soft, caring, and strong. We bonded over our shared experiences and soon became friends who eventually deepened into something more. I loved Lisa because she understood me and would join in the celebrations. In her, we had a beautiful life filled with laughter, joy, and hope for a brighter tomorrow. She nudged me into restarting my passions and picking up painting again, which I hadn't touched since high school. We painted together with our paintbrushes, which healed me evidently. Through such art, it became our safe haven. That's where we found ways to express ourselves. The canvas then reflects our journey, a fusion of colors and emotions to capture the shared experiences. I had coordinated with Sarah's father so that every now and then I could see Sarah's son, or really, my own son, either with her father or later on my own at his school, without Sarah knowing. I would visit his school occasionally and introduce myself as a friend of Sarah's father. I'd tell him, "You're like a son to me," and play with him, easing my longing. He knew me but only as his father and friend, but I always saw him as my son. So it was that one day, I visited my son at school, and coming out of his classroom at this time of day, who should I see but Sarah, looking lost and worn. My sympathy for her was immediate. I sensed the pain of her choices. When I finally called out and tentatively approached, the anger inside me permitting me to take such a step had begun to waver for that moment. "Daniel, I'm so sorry," she said in a shaking voice. "I made so many mistakes. I lost everything." I embraced my son, recalling that she had broken all of our lives. Yet, instead of hatred, I felt some empathy. "You made your choices, Sarah. I hope you can find a way to heal and grow," I replied, trying to remain firm. She nods, sobbing tears from her eyes. "I want to be a good mom. I learned much about my life. When you take everything for granted, it just slips from your hands. I hope you can forgive me one of these days." In those words, the weight of resentment started to lift. Forgiveness did not mean I would forget. It was a step toward healing. I left the conversation with a sense of closure. I finally stepped out from the shadows of our past. I felt total love and hope when I saw my son play in the park while laughter hung within every breeze. The sun went down below the horizon, warming the whole world. And at times, the ashes of the former things give birth to new beginnings. I built a life of love and strength to face what comes next. Lastly, I learned that the most complex decisions lead to profound growth. I found my path back home, a road that brought me closer to the truth, an answer I had sought my entire life. The illusion of our perfect life was broken. Still in its ruins, I discovered the beauty of authenticity and the power of forgiveness. This was the first time I thought of Thanksgiving since cradling my son in my arms and feeling his hair tousled in the evening breeze. And for it was in the depths of pain and betrayal that I was transformed into places of strength. I knew I was headed down the right path, filled with love and purpose, ready to embrace whatever the future held.